Hi, this is Poohead189, otherwise known as Ben because, well, that is my name. I have a lot to talk about today. It took a while to think on how to make this video, truth be told. It all seemed so abstract for a while, but now everything is coming together. For those of you who don't know me, I am privileged to be able to say I'm a voice talent and scriptwriter for the Faerun History channel, and if you're a fan of the Dungeon Cast, I was the guest speaking to Will and Brian on Drizzt Do'Urden, the very popular character featured in the very popular Dark Elf series written by R.A. Salvatore. I also have a small, modest YouTube channel where I make lore videos on various science fiction and fantasy universes, as well as historical videos as I was a history major in college and it's still a large passion of mine. My main passions, however, among other things, is writing. I've been writing fantasy for around 10 years now, though it's been only recently that I am able to say I am getting published, or at least that I have attempted to get published, and at least I've written a short story for the Sun Turin campaign setting, and that is being published, although it's still in the editing process, and I am working on a novella now that'll probably sell on Amazon. And I had a thought. I've recently been getting into the business of authoring books, and since I am an unrepentant nerd and loser, I decided to make a small project, a labor of love for science fiction and fantasy fans, and prospective writers. It is a 10-episode podcast titled Magic Rings and Laser Beams, and on it, I, myself, will interview famous authors and people of influence in the science fiction and fantasy genres, asking them the questions about their work that I have wondered for years, if not decades. I am also going to do a small segments on writing, games, etc. before the interviews, but my speaking with the authors will be the main part of the podcast episodes. I hope you guys enjoy the episodes, because I know I will. I have 3 guests ready, with the first episode airing in September. I'll let you know the date soon. My first guest is an icon of mine, the author of arguably the most famous series of novels in the Black Library, Gotrek and Felix. He is also the author of the Space Wolf novels in 40k, the Illidan novel in the Warcraft universe, a longtime gamer, the wielder of Doomhammer, and honestly a very fun person to speak to from my emailing experience, Mr. William King. My second guest slated for episode 2 has been writing novels for the Forgotten Realms setting for decades, though I only discovered him in recent years. It was in 2016 when I borrowed the novel Sword Mage from my friend, the first book in the Moonsea trilogy, and immediately it became one of my favorite fantasy novels. Since then I've been a fan of his work, and he is also known for his game design and his creative help in many Dungeons & Dragons sourcebooks over the years, Mr. Richard Baker. Finally, my third guest I have also discovered in recent years. I believe it was 2015 or 16 when I began the War of the Spider Queen series, a series that Richard Baker wrote the third book in. The first book, however, was written by my third guest, a longtime writer of the realms and known for his fantasy and horror stories, Mr. R. Lee Byers. Now before I go into the next big subject of this video, I want everyone to know that I will not be accepting advertisements based on monetary gain, nor will I perform gimmicks, and I will absolutely not be a yes man when it comes to any platform such as Twitter. If I promote something, it's because I think it's good, not because someone has paid me or offered me something in return. If I ask a question, I am genuinely curious. This is a sincere podcast with sincere questions. Honesty and integrity are the things companies, studios, channels, and interviews need the most. We're here to learn and sate curiosities. Now onto a sensitive subject, or at least it's sensitive to me. Patreon. You know, as I said, I run a very small YouTube channel, and I told myself I would make a video concerning Patreon after I gained 100 subscribers. Well, I decided not to, until I had the idea for the podcast. But I also don't want to hang the podcast as bait for it. As in, I don't want people to think that I'm creating this podcast simply for people to pay me in Patreon. I want to say right now that I don't want anyone to feel obligated to donate. If you donate, you have my thanks. You'll help the podcast and my channel. If you're simply a listener, however, you still help. Liking, subscribing, and sharing always helps. But if you're planning on being a patron, you need to know a few things. I'm not a Twitch streamer that plans on making money because I crash in Mario Kart. First things first, there is no pay to play or pay to win. If you're a patron of mine, you get my thanks, my appreciation, and my attention on the Patreon forum, but you can't buy my time, respect, or my podcast. Donating is very appreciated, but I will not use you and pretend anything for you to be my bank. It's disrespectful to me and you. I'm not here to sell bathwater. However, if you're a patron for $5 or more, I'll list your name on either my podcast or my YouTube channel and thank you depending on your reason for donating. If enough people donate, I'll not only be able to use better editing software, I'll also be able to make a season 2 of the podcast. As I said, I'm slated to make 10 episodes, and I have 3 guests lined up. It will also help me get a better studio, if you decide to donate. I'm 28 years old, rooming with my best friend since 4th grade, so we're sharing a house. But with enough patrons, I might rent a small place to record, or I'll commandeer an extra room, or I'll soundproof my room. Either way. If you donate, I'll be able to see your comments more easily as you'll be on my Patreon forum, and you can give me suggestions on lore videos or guests for my podcast. If you donate $25 or more a month, provided it's a question that I believe will be relevant, you can ask a question to a certain author on the podcast and I'll use your name. Or you can suggest an author that I can reach out to have on one of my episodes of the podcast. And to my highest donators, I'll need to think of something because I am staunchly against people buying my love, so that won't happen. But I do need to think of something to thank you because you do still make shit happen, which I appreciate highly. Also, if you want your name listed but have no real money, donate $1 and send me a screenshot of you sharing my YouTube channel, this video, or the podcast channel in general, and I will also add your name to the podcast or my YouTube channel. Now, if you're watching this video and it is before August 18th, 2019, I will consider your questions for the first 3 authors, and suggestions on what other science fiction or fantasy authors I should contact in the comments below without any Patreon membership. I am also a huge softie though, and will likely listen to people even after that, but hey, I need standards. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I am so excited for this podcast. For those of you who have been following my channel since I started, you guys are the best, and for you new people that show up, welcome. Thanks guys.